answer is probably somewhere in the middle. It's probably both. And if it is both, then let's actually start from that space. And similar to the approach that we've taken at King's Trust on focusing on, genuine career readiness, career exploration, skill development, and then, empowering young people to have the confidence to be able to make informed decisions. If school is about teaching young people how to interact with all views and parts of society, then let's build an education system that also brings that into it intentionally. And I think what both of
Hello, Quanta folks, and welcome to another episode of Alchemising Education, our little sister podcast to Fark the Shoulds. I am QuantiMamas Jodi.
Hello, everyone, and I'm QuantiMamas Kerri. Thanks for joining us.
And we have an absolute treat for you today. This gentleman, I just find him to be naturally magnetic. He is the Executive Director of King's Trust Australia. He is an educator with a long history and absolute authority to talk to where we are in the current education situation, shall we call it nicely. He's also a parent, so he is well invested in our kids. Please welcome Dean Delia. We are so grateful to have you here, Dean.
Thanks so much, Jodi and Kerri. Very, very kind and warm welcome. So, yeah, wrapped to be
we
here.
We loved talking with you because we came along to a King's Trust co-design that was basically centred around a program that King's Trust Australia is creating for kids to re-engage them. And I want to come back to you, but really I just want to do a shout out because Kez and I basically came away from that going, oh my God, there are people who are enthusiastic for our kids out there. And I think that because all we're seeing in the landscape now, because we talk to parents who are worried, parents who are concerned, and kids who are just really disaffected, that it almost feels fruitless out there. It certainly feels, very concerning. So to meet someone with your enthusiasm coming from a very genuine heart-based place, but actually doing good is just so brilliant and reassuring. So we're so grateful just for your beautiful enthusiasm. But what I'd love for you to do is just where do you want to start? Give us an overview of who you are, how you are right now in this space, how you're contributing to making society a better place, which you absolutely are, and why we're now fangirls of Dean.
Oh wow, where do I start? And I don't go red very very easily, but I think I'm close. Okay, so maybe we'll start with a few hats that I wear. So as you mentioned, I am a husband and a father of a 2.5-year-old. I am a qualified secondary educator, although my teacher friends tell me I can no longer claim that because I have been out of the classroom for quite some time. I'm also a trained youth facilitator and have spent most of my career in the middle years. Those years that tend to be the tricky ones where parents and educators seem to have some pretty consistent and significant challenges. I always felt like there was something in that. There was something appealing and interesting in that for me. And I was really fortunate early in my career and in my first teaching role to be in a school environment that was super progressive, working with underserved young people from pretty complex backgrounds, and that the traditional education system just would not work for them, or at least it potentially could work for them, but there was significant work that needed to be done on and some wraparound support for them in order to even get the foundations right to start talking about some sort of traditional education. I've largely stayed in that space throughout my career, working both here in Australia and internationally around supporting young people to fundamentally be involved in education-based initiatives, programs, and organisations that actually set them up for success, and a holistic look at what success means, what success looks like in life and work. What are the skills, what are the mindsets, what are the tool sets that young people will need to not just survive in this very rapidly changing and complex world, but to thrive.
Yeah.
I guess the other thing that I'll add to that is that I am a first generation Australian migrant, blue collar background. And that, I think, has given me a unique insight into what education can be, what informal education has meant for me, but also what being exposed to opportunities because of my disadvantage, what that has meant for me and my career and my life. And, hopefully without sounding like too much of a wanker, I really do see that it is important, and it is part of my life mission to pay it forward, because I wouldn't be here talking to you today if it wasn't for opportunities and people who backed me and saw potential.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
And to be able to take all of that. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, you're definitely doing that.
I'm waffling, so go for it.
Yeah, you're definitely doing that. So, all right, let's just jump right in and go to the big brass balls right at the middle of this issue. What do you see as the main constituents of what is wrong with our current education model?
All right, let's do the very short history.
Yep.
Which I'm sure you both know, and I'm sure your audience also is aware of. So, the formal education system that we currently use and are in the sort of Western world came out of the Industrial Revolution. So it is a system that was designed for horse and cart. And we are now in the sixth industrial revolution with the emergence of AI. And we are trying to bring those two things together. Now, what I don't want to say here is like systems are broken, we need to, and there is no hope. And certainly I wouldn't be working in this space if I thought it was hopeless. But I think that we do need to recognize that. And I think that part of the challenge is we collectively are invested in this system on so many levels, intellectually, emotionally, from a fear-based lens. There is so many factors that come into our investment and our focus on the current system. So I think if you speak to anyone with any level of common sense, and you were to say, all right, so here's a system that was designed at this stage, first industrial revolution, horse and cart, and now we're in the sixth, and we're using the same system. I think any person with some level of common sense would go, oh yeah, that doesn't make sense. We need to change that. The trickiness is when it is like all of these massive ingrained systems in our Western culture and society, the untangling from that, or actually maybe the untangling isn't the answer. I think where the wicked problem and solution lies is that's our reality. Now what?
Yeah.
And I think that has absolutely been my focus, as well as the focus of King's Trust, and how we can support young people to, again, not just survive, but to thrive and have everything they need to move into the rapidly changing world of work. And to be able to transition through to different careers and life stages and have meaning and purpose within systems that are not necessarily fit for purpose.
Yeah, I mean, it looks completely unresponsive to me. It's almost like it's not even out of date, but there is a pervasive kind of codependence that's been set up with this, where even the detangling, I think, for parents is just, it almost feels insurmountable, because they're like, what does life look like if we have to reimagine school? They're sort of like, well, I went through that. And so it's almost like this kind of war medal thing where you go, oh, I got a medal because I survived school and now juniors doing it as well. And they're not even surviving anymore. There are so many kids that are, that subclass of disadvantaged kids to me has absolutely swelled. Like there are so many. I have huge reservations with the broad spectrum labeling that is going on for kids. I find it to be a completely limiting pathway for kids into the future from a long view perspective. But more than that, they don't have a sense of their own I guess autonomy and ability to thrive. It's almost like they've lost that. They're so engaged with being hooked into technology in, again, a really pervasive way. The system is unresponsive to them. And so they're just kind of quietly floundering on the edges within this codependent environment. And so I'm curious to know, because you guys are doing good stuff at KTA, and obviously you're a passionate guy that hasn't lost your passion, which is kind of extraordinary.
Amazing. Yeah. Yep. Very focused.
How do we dislocate this? How do we amputate that that codependence that this very outdated system has bestowed upon us?
Oh,
we go straight to the big juicy ones here, just so you know, Dean.
Yeah.
Just a little question.
Yeah. Well, what I'll say is this. Well, I don't have all the answers. One of the questions that I ask, though, is, so if the education system that we are in was designed to prepare young people with skills to move into the workforce. If the purpose of a formal education system is to prepare young people for work, then let's look. Then let's. I think part of the answer is getting agreement on that, if that is the purpose, and then creating opportunities, genuine opportunities based on research, based on co-design with young people, based on experts and their suggestions. And we build, and that's certainly what we do at King's Trust Australia, we effectively become an incubator to demonstrate how education can look to set young people up for meaningful careers and moving into the world of work. If that is not the purpose of education, but it is something else, then let's talk about that. And this is sort of taking off my King's Trust hat for a moment and just speaking as a parent. And one of the things that as I start to think about what kind of environment do I want my daughter to move into, actually what I'm wondering is the education system also about socialization, and actually rather than the focus only being on preparing young people for work, it's actually about preparing them on how to interact with all parts of society and all archetypes of people, and how do you navigate through society. And I don't know if that's actually true. And usually when it comes to kind of these big broad concepts, the answer is probably somewhere in the middle. It's probably both. And if it is both, then let's actually start from that space, and similar to the approach that we've taken at King's Trust on focusing on genuine career readiness, career exploration, skill development, and then empowering young people to have the confidence to be able to make informed decisions. If school is about teaching young people how to interact with all views and parts of society, then let's build an education system that also brings that into it intentionally. And I think what both of these things do is both of these concepts do rather, is they start to highlight what I think we all know intuitively, which is the birth of the internet changed the game, and subjects are important as a way to teach skills. But in my view, subjects in and of themselves as the focus are not meeting either of those targets, whether it is preparing young people for work or preparing them to be able to be contributors and positive citizens. I think that educators are doing the very best they can in a system that is not set up currently to do that.
Well, it's been compliant on the kids actually not calling bullshit on the whole thing, and that's what they're doing now, which is what's so revealing in that sense, isn't it?
Yeah, and I kind of see, school's been really good at providing, kids with opportunities to learn about certain subjects. Like the curriculum is based on subjects, as you sort of mentioned, and it's not based on life skills as such. And so therefore, school is very formal, it's very structured. And so kids are having to learn how to exist within always being in a structured, formal environment. And that, as you sort of said in your introduction about, informal learning and informal opportunities, that's where I think a lot of the growth is, and a lot of the autonomy gets built, and a lot of the resilience, and a lot of the confidence, and a lot of the creativity, and all of those other things. So it's really hard for these kids to learn about life and learn about where they fit in to their communities and where they fit into their, what their purpose is or what they want to be doing, when everything's so formal, so structured, so already created for them. So, then you put them from that environment and, put them out into the big wide world, and, are they really feeling ready for that, Dean? Like, what are you seeing from that perspective around these kids? Are they coming out feeling like they're ready? And what role do you guys play in helping to bridge that gap?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll start with statistically.
Yep.
No, I'll start there. That statistically, young people are saying they are feeling ill-equipped to move into the world of work. That is backed also by employers who are saying that even if a young person is coming in with some level of technical skill, what we call enterprise skills, or traditionally known as soft skills, there is a shortfall often. And this is often backed as well by parents' concerns and teachers' concerns. I want to pause and just be really clear and give a shout out to educators of all forms, including classroom teachers. I have the utmost respect for anyone who is still in a classroom fighting the good fight, especially post-COVID. You are all my heroes.
Yes.
And when we speak to educators, classroom educators, this is both backed anecdotally and through research. Teachers want to do all these things. They want to do inquiry-based learning. They want to be inspiring and they want to be creative. They want to teach to the individual. They want to do individualized learning plans, like all of the things that we get to play with on the outside now that I'm, outside of the classroom. And also all the stuff that we're doing at King's Trust, the majority of teachers hear it, see it, love it. And there is this challenge for them, which is needing to teach to the test, being driven by external forces, being within the system and the limitations of the system. So what I want to just make really clear is that what I'm not saying here is this is not casting blame. I think this is bigger than any individual and even any government, to be perfectly honest, because what we're seeing here in Australia can be said in most developed countries as well. So I wanted to define that. And then I guess to go back to your question, Kerri, we know both anecdotally and through research that with the rise of AI, with the rapidly changing world of work, that the number of young people that will go through traditional pathways is quite low, and yet we have a system that is set up for that to be the majority. The majority of young people will go into multiple careers over their life. They will test things, they will try things, they will, and as we all do. If I'm sure that if your audience were to reflect, it's actually the exception rather than the norm that a person stays in one career and does that for their whole life until retirement, gets their gold watch, jumps in the caravan and goes around Australia. Like that doesn't happen anymore. No. The reality for young people right now is they are doing some sort of formal or informal study. They're working part-time. They have a side hustle, and they're doing all of this while trying to figure out who they want to be and what they want to do. And the framing that they've been given is pretty limited. I mean, I don't know about your experiences with career education and careers advice at school, but what I can tell you is that most young people have a really terrible experience of careers education. And again, that is not the fault of the school. It is the reality of the system where there is, I believe the most recent statistic, I hope I get this right, is one careers educator to every 5,000 young people in Australia.
Wow.
And then when you look at who are those careers educators, and I'm generalizing, but they're generally either the graduate teacher who is highly enthusiastic and connected to the future of work because they're the younger, they're the most connected to that through their own experience, and they're finding their feet, they're involved in everything, and probably in a lot of cases don't have the lived experience themselves to be giving meaningful advice. Then you go to the other side, and in a lot of schools, the careers educator is usually the teacher that is close to retirement.
Yes.
Probably the most burnt by the system, probably the least connected to the future of work.
Yeah.
And they are trying their best to upskill and prepare young people. Then you take it to the next stage and the next layer out, and there are very well-intended community members, family members, who will be influencing their children and the young people in their communities in the best possible way that they know. And that often comes with bias, whether that be cultural bias, whether that be lack of understanding of the opportunities that are out there, and a slew of other things that could come into that. So when you actually look at it through those lenses, you start to get a sense of why we have midlife crisis.
Yeah.
And what I've been spending a lot of time thinking about recently is actually the Japanese approach, the Ikigai philosophy of looking at life and success and well-being holistically,
Yes.
with the hope that if you connect to your personal identity, and that's certainly what we do through the work at King's Trust Australia and through our Achieve education framework and skills framework. If we can look at the individual as a whole, we can support them as they explore who they are through multiple lenses, what they stand for, what their values are, how they want to contribute to society, what success looks like in the sense of like how they want to spend their days. And if you can start to build out these things, then what they do for a job actually becomes irrelevant.
Correct.
because they are more connected to their life purpose. And I need to, I guess I'll get off my soapbox in a moment, but the last thing I need to say in all of this is I also recognize the extreme privilege that young Australians, even if they do come from underserved communities, but us as Australians, and the fact that we're having this conversation about what we want work and life to look like is a privilege, because that is not the case for most people in the world, and it's certainly not the case for most generations before us. So I understand why when we talk to a lot of young people from migrant backgrounds, the message they get from home is you can be a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, or a disappointment. I understand why from young people from blue collar backgrounds feel like their choices are family, business, trade, or the aspirational university with no understanding of what that actually means. And I also understand when we work with and talk to young people from privileged backgrounds that they feel the same pressure, except instead of it being about those other kind of prospects, that they're feeling like they have to go to university, anything else is a failure, that they have to go to the same university or a prescribed university from their parents, and have to do a course that is approved by their parents and has the status connected to it as well. Now, again, I'm talking generalizations, but this is what we hear and see on the ground very often, and I think is also part of the challenge when we talk about this from a systems lens.
Yeah, I think that's why we're so interested in basically tapping into the heart and soul of the parent and re-engaging them with why they brought these humans earthside, because certainly when you're bringing your baby into this world, you're not thinking about, I'm going to make sure I indoctrinate them as much as possible with the things I want for them. You know, it's actually, it's the world of possibility opening up as you look at this new life and go, I wonder what they'll become. So we must re-engage families, parents, communities back into that wonderment for the individual, because I can see it's just being squashed routinely. But one thing I did feel really relieved about was that obviously when we joined you guys for the co-design, and this is obviously what we're seeing even with our kids and the community that surrounds us, is that kids are hooking into this frequency of knowing all is not that, and there are other options out there. So there is something with this generation that are coming in with this awareness, I think, to help reshape the system. And I really appreciate what you said about educators. We're not here to bash anyone, but the fact that we are all participating and financing a system that is, I think, causing a lot of harm now. It's not benign. It actually is harmful to a lot of young people, and it's certainly not setting them up for a thrive life. We are all complicit in that. We are all responsible for that. And even the well-meaning educator who's stuck in the hamster wheel of, you know, doing the best with what they've got. At some point we need a rebellion, and people need to go, this stops now. It's too important. We need to make a shift within this space. So I think, you know, what you're doing at King's Trust is actually something that really is intentional, but also practical as well. And I'd love for you to share a little bit just about that, about how, you know, even parents, but educators, anyone listening, how these kind of frameworks could be adopted in a far more practical sense. And one of the things I love is that the young people have a voice within the shaping of this, right? That they are the foundation of the co-design process.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll talk to that in a moment, but I want to go back as well to your comment about young people are catching on. In my experience, and of working with middle years, young youth across the world in all sorts of settings, what I will say is that young people through, I've been in the game for 25 years, they have an incredible bullshit meter.
Yeah.
Yes.
And young people, and also their guard seemingly is really high, but compared to adults who have been burnt many a time on many fronts, their guard can come down pretty quickly if you come with authenticity. So that's actually one of the things I love most about working with the middle years. And certainly what we have seen is some of the best insights that we've got that have informed some of the initiatives that we have developed and delivered have come from creating a safe space where, you know, we lean into and respect the lived experience and the wisdom of young people. They may not always say it in the ways that we can as professionals who have been in the game for a while, but they know bullshit. They can smell bullshit, and they actually have really good ideas. So you mentioned, and we've discussed a little bit the approach we take at King's Trust. So fundamentally, what we did almost 7 years ago now was when we started from the ground up. So King's Trust has been around globally for over 50 years, but really we weren't working intentionally and intensively here in Australia until 7 years ago. So in late 2018, we started exploring this idea of how are young people faring, and what does research tell us are going to be the biggest barriers for young people and the greatest opportunities. So we looked at both local research, international research. We did co-design with young people from all different education backgrounds and schools and diversity. We included subject matter experts, and fundamentally we learned some pretty interesting things through that. A lot of the stuff that we've discussed here, that essentially young people want inquiry-based learning opportunities where they can explore careers and make before they have to make life choices. So to get some lived experience and an exploration through good careers education frameworks before they jump into subject choices and thinking about what the next 50, 100 years of their life is going to look like effectively. We learned some pretty cool things through that. What we learned is that if we were to create something that was going to be really meaningful, that it needed to be a framework, not a program. It needed to be adaptive to a range of educational settings, different age groups, different time frames. It needed to fit within existing curriculum and existing focus points, as well as add value. It needed to, anything that we were to create also needed to add value without adding too much stress and workload for educators who are already at their end, you know, and solve world peace and all of the things. I think we came up with something that fit, like that ticked a lot of those boxes. And effectively where we landed was we created a framework which we call Achieve. That is a careers education framework that also develops what we see as 10 fundamental enterprise skills that will set young people up for success. And that is all done through an inquiry-based learning model. We designed that. We went out to market. So we designed that in 2019. We went to launch that at the start of 2020. And then a little thing happened, which we probably don't need to go into. Now, actually, what that did, though, is, you know, I'm being a bit facetious, but COVID actually worked really well, because what it did is all the stuff that we said we think is going to happen in the future then just became the now. What it also did was, with, you know, the biggest barrier here in Australia for us is we work nationally, and we're a big country with a small population, and those who usually need the most support are the hardest to get to. You know, online learning was always something that we looked into, but I think there was less of an appetite for it post-COVID. What COVID did is it brought everyone online and allowed us to, you know, effectively interact with all aspects of the education sector. And over the, you know, between 2020 and 2022, we worked with over 650 schools and education institutions. Informally, it was close to 20,000 young people. I think the official number we counted was probably about 7,000. But what that did was really validate that the work that we are doing in focusing on careers education, upskilling through practical activities that connect to real life things that young people will need to know, like, how do I get an ABN? How do I find a mentor? How do I change a tire? How do I, you know, write a CV? All of these sort of things that are done in a really fun, hopefully, way, and that are mapped against what we call our 10 enterprise skills. This became a really important thing for us at King's Trust, and actually now moving into where we're at in our new 3-year strategy. The Achieve framework that we created underpins everything that we do, whether it is focused on high school aged young people, whether it's an employment-based program designed for school leavers, or whether it is for young people that are thinking about self-employment, and some of the programs that we run and are about to launch for that cohort. All of the work that we do is underpinned by this framework, because it is the most important thing that we can do to set young people up for success based on the research.
Yeah, but also you just know it so intuitively when you hear it, and that's been our experience even at, you know, as we sort of detoxed our kids from the education model, in the sense of, you know, being very passive and receiving information, to actually the experiential learner to go out and actually test things out and see how it applies to them. That's been happening in even our household. And the difference in the kids is incredible, because they suddenly feel very empowered in, you know, the direction that their life is taking, even in that now moment. And that in itself, you can't put a value on it, because you just see you see the personality evolve in that space, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah, you see their confidence grow, don't you? And the ability to, trust in the people that you're partnering with, whether it be out of the home or in the home, is really strong.
It's such a good conversation. We could just keep going on and
Yes.
maybe even fix everything. Who knows? We're very functional people. With what you've got at King's Trust Australia and the Achieve program, can parents find that information and sign up to the program if they're looking to support their kids in a different way?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that's really important to us is, and I should mention to your viewers, we exist to support all young people within Australia, and we have a specific and intentional focus on supporting those who are underserved. That's why we exist. That's our history, and that's something that we will always focus on. Because of that, we want to make sure that everyone has access to the resources and materials and frameworks that we develop. So everyone can jump on Achieve online. You can sign up for free, and that will give you access to all of the thinking, all of the research, all the activities, and that is available to all of your audience. And that will be an ever-growing evolution of assets. As you both mentioned, we're grateful that you took part in the co-design, and what will come from that is the next iteration of the Achieve framework into a program. So right now it is flexible, and it is presented in a way that educators can look at it, think about what fits for their young people that they serve, and take what you want and leave what you don't need. We're also hearing that some educators want a more prescriptive program, and we are in development of that. So Achieve Online is the starting point, and then I would say please do sign up to our mailing list, and we'll keep you posted as the new program develops.
Yeah, fantastic. And it's so functional, which is what I really love. I just think we all need to work out ways that we can have a functional impact on where we're currently at, because our kids need that. Dean, thank you so much for your time. We're so grateful to just hear that wisdom and perspective of being an educator, a parent, and also the incredible work that KTA is also bringing to our community, and the potential for that to roll through worldwide, which is brilliant. So we obviously really support anything that is going to help our kids, thrive in our life, and we, again, just it's a meeting of the passionate minds, isn't it?
Definitely, yeah. And to know that there's, other people out there, other groups out there, other organisations that are really listening to the needs of these kids, knowing that it's their future and that we need to help them create that in a way that feels really, positive and confidence boosting for them. So thank you.
And how lucky your daughter is. She chose well.
She did.
That's very kind of you. Thanks for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. And the last thing I think I want to say here is, like, I am constantly thinking about what sort of system and what sort of environment that my wife and I want for our daughter, and I don't have the answer. But one thing that I do keep coming back to is that this is holistic. And if your audience are thinking about the development of their child and holistically are thinking about exposure to experiences, to different lived experiences, to different ways of thinking, to different ways of living, and providing support, safety, and mentors, I reckon that's probably part of the answer.
Absolutely.
I think that is a beautiful thought to end on. Thank you again so much, Dean.
Thank you.
Quantifolk, we have loved this conversation, and we very much look forward to joining you another time. Go well.
See you soon.
Bye, everybody.
Hey, Quantifolks, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Birth is transformational. And it can be transformational in the right way and in the not so right way. So how do we arm ourselves to be really prepared for this incredible experience? Well, you wouldn't go out and run a marathon without any kind of training. You'd at least do occasional stretches. And the High Vibe Birth course, which is self-paced, available at the QuantiMama.com website, is available for you. You get to luxuriate in all of the ideas and transformational techniques and the beautiful information that can only have a positive effect on your birth. So get fit for your birth marathon and head to QuantiMama for the High Vibe Birth course. Beautiful Quanta folks. You know, at QuantiMama, we have a mandate that we feel so passionate about. We want and we are raising the community's vibration and frequency and consciousness through parenting and birth experiences. Such incredible, transformational experiences that will shape you as a person and are the very fabric of life. Do you want to find out how to high vibe your experience even more? Then QuantiMama is your place. Head there for the High Vibe Birth course, ultimate preparation for birthing. Head there if you want to re-engage your child in the love of learning for the Take the Leap course, which is a deschooling course for parents. There's beautiful mind movies, and obviously this podcast is there, and we are here to support you. So head there for all the juice.